out there, you're not going to move the needle at all.
Yeah, no, totally. And I've had a few of my listeners that have basically, they've said about starting their own podcast. They've asked for a bit of advice, which I'm happy to give anybody that advice. It doesn't really bother me. I'm like, if you want to talk about wrestling, then great. There's no big deal. I just never had that problem. And also, like, listen, when I listen to other podcasts, including yourself, I'm always learning. I'm picking up new things, and I'm like, okay, I could bring that into mine, or maybe I should do this less and that more. And that's how you evolve and get better, because nobody is an expert in this stuff, trust me. And for the most part, I know a lot of my listeners, some of the people, they said, I'm a little bit too shy, or maybe I haven't got anything to say. I'm like, unless you start it, unless you give it a go, you'll never know.
You don't,
because it only takes that one little thing, and it might be that you're totally different from everyone else. Everyone is unique, so you never know. It's one of those things. Certainly from us, when I first started, I was completely a mess. I mean, it was terrible, and I hated. I don't know. Now, let me ask you this: as a fellow podcaster, let me ask you this: how many do you ever like sit back and listen to yourself? Because I did that the first 3-4 times I did a podcast, and I was like, stop saying the same thing. I would do. There was a couple of words I would be saying all the way through this interview with Diana Hart, and I was like, what a prat. I sound terrible. It was like, and it was that that came in a lot.
I still do that.
And something like, I don't know if it was like, you know what I mean. I kept saying that all the time. And I was thinking, like, I'm counting this up in my head. I'm sure there's somebody else out there that's doing the same. And it was a nightmare. When I first started,
I'll be honest with you, John. I do listen to my episodes back. I didn't like doing it at first, but I feel that the more you listen to yourself back, and the more you listen to your episodes, you can kind of learn from from the things that you pick up. And like I say, I'm always saying and things like that. But there are certain tricks that you got to try not to say or to try and talk over the other person when they're talking. I
used to write it down on a pad of paper in front of me, like some sort of like subconscious thing that was going to happen. Do not say that word. But I
think the most important thing is, regardless of how bad you think you sound, I think if you talk with passion, people will engage with you. People will be engaged by you, and people will listen to you and want to hear you. I want to invest in you as a person, as a podcaster, as a character, and as a brand. If you can talk with passion and you know a little bit about what you're talking about, and I think people will keep coming back, and it's that passion. And I think the biggest thing you should not do is to put on a different version of yourself. And you can't turn yourself into the cartoon John Scott. You need to be yourself, but you need to just talk passionately and have fun with it. And I think that's it. Be passionate and have fun, and that's what I've tried to do. And but going back to them first 1 or 2 episodes, my God, I have tried to stay away from listening to those, if I'm honest with you, because they were pretty horrendous. But that episode 1, I think, probably had about 120 cuts and edits in it. To be honest with you, I don't know how I stitched together anything that made sense.
I used to have to keep restarting it. I'd be sitting there. I'd have to keep restarting. Even the introduction, I was like, how many more times am I going to say welcome to WrestleMania, blah blah blah? And it just became like I was a robot by the end of it, and I wasn't even saying it naturally.
But now, if I make a mistake, I don't care. I just go, because that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun. If you make a mistake, you just carry on. You laugh through your mistake and get on with it. Because I think if you're laughing, if you know you've made a mistake and you laugh through it, and your audience knows you've made a mistake, they're going to laugh with you. Exactly. That just turns it into a bit more fun, and it makes you sound a bit more human as well. To be honest with you, if you mess up, just have fun and just relaxed and what did I say earlier? Just be yourself and enjoy the experience. It's as simple as that. And just talk with passion and enjoy the experience. Because
the same part I liked on your podcast here is you was doing some really fascinating interviews, and the one I really liked was the Big Effing Joe one you did.
I
was really drawn to that. I listened to that about twice, I believe, because I was just like, I was on the road on one of them, and I was kind of in and out. I was walking around. I had to sort of focus. I ended up listening to it again. on my way home on the train, and I thought that was tremendous.
He's a good guy. He's a good
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. And you know, a lot of people like to look at Joe. Like I've seen him in the flesh. I've met him backstage a few times. It can be quite intimidating. He's a big guy. I mean, it's like when you see him up in person, it's like, oh, blimey, this guy's a giant. But yeah, what a really nice guy, and also very intelligent, like super intelligent about his views about the industry. I was really drawn into that. Do you are you still pretty much going along with having more interviews on the show, or is that just sort of when you can do it and time?
Yeah, well, I love doing the interviews. If I'm honest, I probably love doing the interviews more than my regular weekly show, because you kind of really do build a rapport with the person you're interviewing. You learn a lot when you're speaking to them, and you kind of gain an extra friend, so to speak. They kind of keep in touch with you, and you can kind of tag them in things, and they're happy to kind of help you out. So I do really love the interviews. At the same time, with my regular show, I kind of have different content creators, podcasters, YouTubers on every single week, and I think I pride myself on having somebody different every single episode. So that's pretty good, and that keeps it fresh for me. But I do enjoy the interviews, and I think some of my favourite interviews. I did for my first ever Turnbuckle TV interview. I did CJ Carter. Now he's a great guy. And he was really, really open.
He's a
really,
great
really passionate
worker as well.
Oh man, he really is.
I came across him in person more last year than I ever have done before that. And you know what? He's one of the most, and I mean, to be honest with you, all the wrestlers I've ever dealt with are all nice guys. Like everyone says that to me, like, are they okay? Or do you get like bad treatment? I'm like, no, everyone's cool. But I said, the big thing is your natural sort of like instinct of somebody is a little bit different to when you first meet someone. And I would say he is so open. He'll come and chat to you. He'll give you little bits of advice, tell you about his day. It's very, very insightful. But he, as a worker, I mean, he's really going places. I can tell, like, he's doing both that heel and that babyface stuff at the moment. And it's like hitting a 10 at both of them, I would say.
Yeah, he really is knocking it out of the park. But I've got the chance to interview so many kind of fascinating people from around the world, really. And I mean, I kind of enjoy reaching out to these people and introducing myself and seeing if they're interested and seeing what sort of response I get back. And when you do get a positive response and they want to come on your podcast, it's like fantastic. I absolutely love. Like I said, I've got some interviews coming up this week. I think I'm going to be dropping an interview with the two guys that run DNA Wrestling coming out of Ipswich, Dave and Ants, very, very soon. So that'll be like a double interview there. Can't wait to drop that episode. On Saturday, I'm going to be talking to Alex Talbot, otherwise known as Xander Calloway, and talking about him as a promoter and as a wrestler. So that'd be pretty cool. But I've got about half a dozen interviews lined up for the next month or so. So I'm going to be a busy boy with interviews, definitely, as well as my regular weekly show.
It's a good time to do them now. And it works for everybody. It works for them, and it also works for us. So it's quite cool that you're sort of both helping each other out, because obviously they can't get out at the moment. They're not doing the tours with the fans, but this is another way that they can engage. And obviously where we come in is we've got the platforms, so we've got a nice, and like you say, it's about building rapport ultimately. And you'd be surprised sometimes, like just by messaging somebody, you might not hear back from 9 out of 10 sometimes, but then other times somebody's up for it. And I think you just have to bear that in mind, not be too defeated if that doesn't work out. It's just part and parcel of it sometimes.
Shall I tell you the best thing? The best thing I found about doing these interviews is that sometimes you go into an interview or you arrange an interview with somebody you know very little about, probably next to nothing about. You might know their name. Sometimes you might get thrown a name from like I've got a good relationship with Rich from Turnbuckle TV. He occasionally says, "Oh, try this guy. He's up for doing interviews." I'm thinking, "Oh, I've not I don't know this guy."
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So you have to go out and you do your research. And you do tons and tons of research, and by the end of it, not only do you have a fantastic interview with them, but you've built that rapport, you've built that relationship, and you know so much more about the other person. And like I say, out of nothing comes this kind of magical experience, and that's what I really love about doing interviews.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, with me, the first interview I ever done was actually my first podcast, which was a real lucky kind of thing. That was with Diana Hart. And I don't know how the hell I managed to pull that off, because I didn't have. It's one of those things. When you're more established, it becomes a lot easier to get somebody on. But when you haven't even got one podcast done, and I'd never done podcasting up until that point, I was like, I'm not sure about this now. And I was super nervous. We'd done it on Skype. We were both like looking at each other. And she was like, at the time, Diana was like, well, I've got about 20 minutes. We can talk about my book. I was like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, anything you want. Like whatever. And we ended up going for like 2 hours. And at the end of it, I was like, you sure you was all right staying all that time? She's like, yeah, because, he was just talking, and it was good that some of the stuff, basically what it was, I didn't harp on about the usual stuff that she normally gets asked. I knew enough interviews that she'd done that I thought, oh, she must be getting sick of those same questions. So I went a different avenue altogether, and that's what kept her on and kept her entertained for that time. But yeah, a great person, really helped me out at the beginning, just throwing those things out on social media. And then I believe my second guest was Daniel Puder, and that is one of the most funniest ones ever.
Wow.
Because he just went on the whole Kurt Angle rant. It was absolutely fascinating. It was like we hadn't left that year of the whole Tough Enough, and he was so sort of like passionate about it. He wanted to throw out a challenge to him on the podcast.
He sounds like the type of guy that kind of just bumps into a random person down the streets and starts ranting about that Kurt Angle moment.
It was classic stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sheldon Goldberg. He's a promoter for New England wrestling in the States, and he does like a lot of like the news outlet stuff. He came on, and yeah, just from there, you kind of, but obviously going around to the shows, you meet all these people. And just recently, in fact, I had Adam Maxted on, and again, I didn't really know that much about the guy when I first met him at All Star. You always get these people in your ear. They're like, you don't want to go near him. He's from Love Island. You know what he'll be like. I've got to say, he's the most down-to-earth guy I've ever met, and such a nice guy backstage. Like, all these stories you hear, and you think, is he going to be a bit up himself because he's done that show and all this stuff? But not at all. And I think that's the big thing to come out of this is that never judge people, before you've actually met them, because you never know. And 9 times out of 10, I've never had an experience, touch wood, where it's been like, get lost, I'm not doing it. I'm sure it'll come at one time. At the moment, my listeners are absolutely like emailing me in to get one. There's only one name they want on the podcast at the moment, and it's Paul Robinson.
Oh, okay. I'd love to speak to Paul. I know you have. You've spoken to him backstage.
Oh yeah, I've done. I've done drive-alongs with Paul to DNA the last few times, and that's an experience in itself. Let me tell you. I kind of said to him last time, I was like, we should do drive-along with Robbo. That should be like our new series. And but he's so hated at these places that I was telling his story last time that he's so disliked. Like, he's one of the sort of natural heels that still the adults still get annoyed about, that when I'm traveling out with him, I have to sort of get all my equipment together, and we have to run out the back door, get into the car as quick as we can, and drive off. It's just ridiculous, but it's good at the same time. But unfortunately, Robbo, I keep saying this to people, I'm reaching out to him, but Robinson with technology doesn't work well.
Right.
And and he ain't a patient guy, let me tell you. So it can be difficult sometimes to get him on. But if I can, I will. I can assure you.
Oh, I'd listen to that one. That would be amazing.
Goodness knows what he's doing at this time. I can only imagine.
I'm sure if he's self-isolated, he's probably climbing the walls by now.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I've seen some quite funny things. And but yeah, like you say, having guests on really does open the door, I think, for them as well. Sometimes, I think that although I'm always humble when I have somebody agree to something, I think sometimes, you can serve something for them as well. And I think it's you should never forget that sometimes as well, because the more you go on. obviously we are living in this time at the moment, John, where we're isolating. So my creative head